God morgon, god morgon. Mitt namn är John Billhoff. Jag är chef för Nationellt cybersäkerhetscenter vid FRA. Jag är jätteglad att kunna samverka med AI Sweden för detta webbinarium. Ett stort tack också till alla som arbetat hårt för att få ihop detta under kort tid. Det kommer ibland tillfällen där utvecklingen tar stora kliv och vi lever sannolikt genom ett sådant tillfälle just nu. Sedan bara i höstas har det skett en stark utveckling av AI-modellerna som blivit allt kraftfullare för varje månad och för varje släpp av nya versioner. Förmågan att skriva kod har förbättrats och med den även förmågan att hitta sårbarheter och förmågan att också kunna utnyttja sådana sårbarheter av illasinnade. Häromdagen hade jag möjlighet att diskutera den senaste utvecklingen med mina kollegor från våra motsvarigheter utomlands. Och vi delade bilden att detta är del av en stark evolution av modeller som blivit allt kraftigare. Hastigheten kommer att öka både i arbetet med att skydda våra system och det får konsekvenser med hur vi organiserar oss för att höja cybersäkerhetsnivån. Och de grundläggande cybersäkerhetsråden som vi och andra ger ut är nu viktigare än någonsin att följa. Nationellt cybersäkerhetscenter har ett nationellt uppdrag att utveckla och stärka Sveriges samlade förmåga att förebygga, upptäcka och hantera antagonistiska cyberhot och andra IT-incidenter. I uppdraget ligger också att vara en plattform för samverkan och informationsutbyte mellan privata och offentliga aktörer. Och därför är jag glad att se så många deltagare från näringsliv, stat, region och kommun och organisationer med på det här mötet idag. Vi står nu sannolikt inför en period av ökade angrepp mot sårbara system och produkter. Och tröskeln för sådana angripare kommer också sänkas. Samtidigt ser vi att det går att skydda sig mot en stor del av angreppen genom regelbundna uppdateringar och korrekta konfigureringar eftersom det oftast är dessa enklare sårbarheter som angripare utnyttjar. Häromveckan belyste NCSC vikten av cybersäkerhetsåtgärder i system med operativ teknik som är särskilt sårbara. Och igår publicerades en rådgivning tillsammans med 15 internationella partners. Rekommendationer just för att stärka skyddet mot angrepp som var kopplade till Kina via dolda nätverk. Idag kommer vi få höra mer i detalj vad just den senaste modellen är för något och vad det innebär för oss. And I'm going to switch to English and introduce Bobby from AI Sweden and let him give us a little background on this initiative. Well, how did this come about, Bobby?
Hey, John, thanks so much. So my name's Robert Bridges. I go by Bobby. I'm with AI Sweden. I'm a mathematician and a researcher in the intersection of AI and security. And let me tell you about how this came about. We at AI Sweden, our mission is to make sure that there's societal benefit as Sweden takes on the AI transition. We are a nonprofit. We try to be a neutral actor that lifts society, and we work across all sectors. So with private sector, we have a lot of industry partners, but also with government, military, academia. When this Mythos preview news, and we're going to talk about that, hit, and that was a week and a half ago, people like me who follow kind of the intersection of cybersecurity and AI thought we really need to alert our partners and make sure Sweden as a whole is preparing for the transitions that are rapidly coming. 2 weeks ago on Monday, I wrote a document and I got to brief throughout that week the head of the military, the head of the army, many of our partner organizations. And the response from the Swedish society was so proactive. Everyone said, we can donate people, we can donate time. Let's come together and figure out how we solve this together. My boss, Mats, is fantastic at organizing, and he organized a leadership team that steers us and a team of experts. And I'm very thankful to those experts because while I'm a researcher in this cybersecurity field, they are practitioners. And we thought our first goal here is to educate the public and put some information out that puts this in context. And we've put together a document that we, kind of the expert team, have reviewed. And that is what you see on this website at the bottom, and it'll be on one of the last slides as well. So you can check that out. You can even click that and follow along. Much of our discussion will follow information we've collected there. And you can see the plan here. So we'll run through some Mythos news, what Project Glasswing is, try to put that in context, and then make some takeaways.
Great, thanks, Bobby. And well, let's jump right into it and see. Give me the first key news about this Mythos preview. What do we need to know?
Yeah, so let's go back 2.5 weeks. Mythos Preview is a flagship AI model, and it is the newest model from Anthropic, so one of the major tech companies that makes AI models. They have not released this model, and the reason they did not release it is because it has such advanced cyber capabilities, they felt it would be too dangerous. And they released this in a few documents. In these documents, they explain that they have used the model in testing, obviously before it was released, to try to attack software. That is, to find vulnerabilities in software and exploits. And I want to pause here and just get some terminology down for folks who are not from the cybersecurity field. A vulnerability is a hole in software. You should think of it like a open window in a building. It would allow a robber to get into that building and do shouldn't. An exploit would be, in this analogy, like a ladder. It's a procedure that allows the attacker to leverage a vulnerability to do something they shouldn't. And all software has bugs. The question is, how often do they occur and how critical are they? And so the community that maintains software is constantly finding vulnerabilities and then writing exploits to prove their vulnerabilities. And then they have to patch the software, test that it works. And we have an international way of documenting which software has which vulnerability, so we know we can keep our software up to date. The reason that this news was important is that they showed they could find vulnerabilities extremely quickly, faster than any previous AI model, and much faster than humans traditionally have, in core software that we all use every day. They claimed zero-day vulnerabilities in every major operating system and in other very common software like Firefox web browser. Perhaps even more surprising in this news was the speed at which they could create exploits that actually worked. And some of those were zero-day exploits, meaning the vulnerability was known at the same time the exploit was found, in software that was believed to be very secure and was over 27 years of it believing to be secure. So it's clearly a large step in terms of our abilities to automatically look into our software and find holes. So let me pause there. I want to mention one other piece of news that came out that week, and it was not from Anthropic. It was from an organization that works with the British government, the UK, and they got to test Mythos capabilities at general hacking. So this is a different thing than finding a software flaw. This was actually trying to hack a network. And what they found was it was about the same as GPT 5.4. That is state of the art, but it wasn't necessarily a step above that. So this new AI model seems to be fantastic at finding flaws we didn't know and exploiting them. And we should think of this as a microscope. It gives us a new way to look into the software we use every day and figure out holes it has that could be exploited. And that means we have a backlog of problems that we need to deal with.
Great, but a lot of this information came from Anthropic themselves, and there are people who say, it's a bit of a hype situation from Anthropic. What do you say to that?
So the short answer is it's not just hype, it's real. Of course, having these capabilities talked about on the global scale is helpful. So of course it's hype, but there are key details in there that let us know that it's not just hype. The biggest one is they're working with the software maintainers, these third-party companies, and sometimes just people, to patch these vulnerabilities. In the documents that they released, they responsibly disclosed every vulnerability, which means they told the software maintainers first so that no one could exploit that in the real world. And those software maintainers patched it, and you could publicly verify that before Anthropic's report went out. So we know that its capabilities are real. The second thing I want to say here is often new AI models are tested on benchmarks, which kind of aren't that trustworthy because they often are trained on the benchmarks. These aren't benchmarks. They're attacking real software and finding new vulnerabilities. So I think there's a lot of evidence the capabilities are real. And then I want to say one more thing here, which is since then, more reports have come out from third-party companies using Mythos to find vulnerabilities in their software and verified that it works. It really accelerates them. So there's more evidence. And lastly, I think we need to zoom out. This is part of a bigger trend. AI has been used to find software vulnerabilities, write exploits, and help with patching increasingly in the last few years. So it's not that unbelievable or that surprising for
Okay,
people in that field.
great. And this project Glasswing, then, could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. Anthropic's response, in addition to releasing a lot of information about their model, was to launch what they called Project Glasswing. They initially invited 10 US companies and they donated $100 million in tokens. So tokens meaning they could use the Mythos preview model. And the goal was to allow these companies to find software bugs in their own software and patch them. These included a few cyber companies, CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, and then major companies that maintain the software we use every day, like Microsoft, Google, Intel, et cetera. That number of companies is growing. And here's a nice quote from Mozilla, who keeps Firefox browser up to date. They've fixed 271 bugs as part of this project already. And I think that I want to bring up with this quote here that this isn't a time to panic, but it does mean that we have an enormous backlog of work because our software has a lot of vulnerabilities that we likely don't know about. And the process to patch it, find it, patch it, report it, and get things up and running is slow. And that's what I think this quote says. This is going to be a boon, but we have rocky times in the short term, and we need to figure out how to get through this backload of work. And maybe one last bullet here about Project Glasswing. It would be great if Sweden somehow could get involved with that. I don't know how to do that, but it gives us a very strong role model from the major tech companies and how they're responding to this news. We need to use AI and other automation capabilities to find our vulnerable software, patch them, and we need to make this process much faster.
Very good, great. So let's then do. You were alluding it to it before. If we zoom out a little bit and see the broader trends that are moving here, what would that be?
Yeah, one of
We
our
put
colleagues,
that.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. No, to put it in context a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think that for those not following how AI has impacted vulnerability analysis, this might have seemed surprising. I think for the people in the field, it was just a small acceleration of a timeline, a trend that had already happened. This is a broader timeline, not just vulnerability analysis, but if you even go farther back in 2025, AI agents, so again, AI agents are artificial intelligence that can use tools like write code, search the web, et cetera, that had been tuned and built to do general hacking had been topping leaderboards and capture the flag competitions. There's a huge trend in 2025 of that. Malware writing and the ability of malware to use AI to rewrite itself to be polymorphic was found in the wild by Google in August 2025. I think one of the most important dates on this timeline is that November 14th. Multi-step campaigns in the wild that were completely run by AI agents were discovered. That was again by Anthropic. So that takes those capture the flag agents and shows that hackers are using them in the real world now. And if you followed that news, the last 2 months we've had a flood of news where AI agents, that is completely autonomous reasoning agents that can search the web, write code, are actually attacking in the real world. Contrast that a little bit. The increase in coding abilities of this AI is also at the same time advancing our ability to find vulnerabilities and exploits. So yes, Mythos, I think, is, I would say, transformational in how fast it can accelerate our ability to find vulnerabilities and probably disruptive in writing the exploits. But it's just the next step on this timeline. It maybe accelerates it a little bit.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, we have our Swedish maintainer of the curl library, for example, also mentioning this issue, seeing the high quality of the reporting that's coming in the last couple of months. So a real change in the quality, which of course goes to show that the models are improving as well.
Hmm.
So with all this, we have people online from decision makers, both from regional, local governments, from organizations. What are the key takeaways here? What do we need to have with us?
Yeah, our expert team talked through this. The good news for the general public is things don't change. There's no reason to panic. The main thing is continue good cyber hygiene. It's like put Clister on your skis before you go skiing. the most important bullet here is keeping your software up to date. So accept those updates, those automatic updates. And the reason why is the maintainers of software are likely going to find a large influx of vulnerabilities, and exploits will be perhaps widely available. And that the way to defend yourself is get the updated software that doesn't have that vulnerability. So those holes aren't there. So that's most important. And then the usual advice, be aware of phishing, social engineering, don't share your passwords, make strong passwords, the usual thing. So things don't change there. We did this same exercise briefly for decision makers. And here we're really thinking about people who work at organizations that maintain their own code base. The change that you're going to see in terms of AI models with these capabilities coming out, and I don't just mean Mythos will be released, but we're going to see this trend in the next 3 to 6 months that these capabilities will be in more AI models from different companies and in different people's hands. The ability to identify vulnerabilities is going to rapidly increase. That can be a boon, it could be bad, just depending on who's doing it first. And then the time from when that vulnerability is discovered until someone can exploit it, actual codes that can do something bad are produced, that is getting much, much shorter. And that means we're going to see a lot more 0 days, attacks we didn't know could happen. So what does that mean? It means that the software that we have built our companies and our organizations on likely have a lot of vulnerabilities that we either didn't prioritize because they weren't risky. It was very low probability that someone would find them or be able to write an exploit. Those may be high risk now. It also means there's this new microscope that's coming out with new AI models. There are vulnerabilities we likely don't know about that could be exploited and perhaps could be critical. So I think decision makers need to reevaluate the risk of their software, and that'll probably be very organization dependent. I can't tell you exactly how to do that. The next thing is we're going to have a huge wave of vulnerabilities that AI is going to help us find and both exploit, but also patch. These AI models are great at writing code. And then the question becomes, how do we get both the human expertise and the technological infrastructure in place to rapidly find those vulnerabilities and patch them? And then I want to look again at that trend. If Mythos is making this news today, how fast and how good will AI models be at this in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years? The trend's not going to decrease, we think. So our process for finding vulnerabilities, verifying them, patching them, reporting is very slow, and it needs to come up to date. It needs to be fast. And so we need to invest in that upgrade of our whole system. And that might take innovation. It might take investment. It might take more manpower. That's what we need to figure out how to do, I'd say, within each organization, but Sweden as a whole. And
All right.
I'll pass it back to you here. You're the National Cybersecurity Center. I know you guys have maybe better advice, and you've provided a slide I can put up for you.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's still the basics that need to be focused on. We have our 10 recommended security tasks for organizations to do. There's a lot of other type of advice going on as well. This can be accessed through our webpage, but I think again, it's the basic cybersecurity action that needs to be taken to begin with here. We see how the adversaries already are using simple ways to get into our systems. A lot of the big incidents that are happening are being done by accessing quite simple vulnerabilities that because of bad patching, because you haven't updated your systems, because you have open ports and things like that. So look at those, start working on those. It's better to start with something. And we're going to continue also developing the advice, especially as this now develops with these new models, together with partners as well.
So I'll start the wrap up. The first thing I want to do is recognize all of the organizations you see on the left side of this slide. These were the organizations that through our network we were able to contact in like a 1 week period and who immediately stood up and said, we can donate time and figure out how to start solving this. As I mentioned, we thought our first task was to inform the public and educate. And so we've put a lot of information on a website, and I made a QR code for it so you can scan that if you'd like, and there's the URL. There's also an invitation if you want to join this collaboration to figure out how we solve this kind of short-term push to make our vulnerability analysis and our overall cyber defense better. Please email that email address on the bottom left. And we won't have time in this webinar for questions. So if you email questions, then we can likely put on the web page frequently asked questions and put some answers there. And now I'll let you do your wrap up, John.
Ja, men, stort tack Bobby. Jag går över till svenska igen. Återigen, den kommande tiden kommer att kräva en hel del av att vi alla bidrar till att höja vårt skydd. Och återigen det jag nyss nämnde, de grundläggande råden kring cybersäkerhetsåtgärder är fortfarande av stor vikt att genomföra i sin verksamhet. Det är viktigt att sätta igång med dem. När jag är ute och talar med organisationer så möter jag en stark vilja att bidra till lösningen, och nu är ju en sådan tid där vi kan samla ihop oss och stötta varandra i det arbete som ligger framför oss. Det handlar både om stöd för att ta itu med det förebyggande systematiska cybersäkerhetsarbetet. Där erbjuder vi råd och rekommendationer via vår hemsida ncsc.se eller via våra olika samarbetspartners och samverkansmyndigheter. Men det är även det stöd som behövs när man drabbas av en incident som vi kommer att tyvärr se mer av. Och här kan Nationellt cybersäkerhetscenter bidra genom den nationella enheten för hantering av IT-incidenter, CERT-SC. Och det är både stöd när en organisation drabbas, men även olika tekniska verktyg som erbjuds som en del av det förebyggande arbetet. Jag rekommenderar alla att gå in där och kolla på de verktyg och tjänster som erbjuds från oss på NCSC. Vi kommer att fortsätta bygga för en bred samverkan för att kunna möta den här nya utvecklingen tillsammans. Vi kommer att fortsätta den här dialogen och diskussionen både med AI Sweden och med andra runt om i Sverige för att kunna möta den här nya utmaningen. Så stort tack till alla som har deltagit idag. Stort tack till AI Sweden för att ni gjort det här möjligt. Och på återhörande får vi säga. Tack så mycket.
Tack.